What's up guys, welcome to AnimeKouhai. If you'd like to help me out, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
Frankly, I'm wondering why you think I'm foolish enough to even consider such a course of action.
I replied, my sarcasm evident. To my surprise, King Gazel appeared visibly relieved by my snarky response. It seemed he had genuinely been worried about the possibility of such a scenario.
Your Majesty, please accept my deepest apologies. It was my suggestion, and I take full responsibility for raising your ire. I humbly ask for your forgiveness.
Dolph, recognizing my displeasure, stepped forward to apologize. I allowed him to explain his reasoning, which boiled down to this. If Tempest and the Empire were to form an alliance, Dwargon would find itself caught between two formidable rivals. Engaging in any military action would be a suicide mission, resulting in a significant loss of diplomatic power for the dwarves. If their adversaries no longer feared them as a rival, they would be compelled to accept unfavorable conditions. That was why they wanted to address the issue proactively.
But either way, it's not as if Dwargon can prevent such a scenario, can it? While I have no interest in going to war, I do believe it's possible for us to align with the Empire.
I responded, expressing my perspective.
Exactly. Ultimately, it comes down to your own judgment. Dwargon may be a sizable nation, but we lack the military might to defeat true dragons like Velgrand or Veldora. Perhaps Dolph's concern was in vain, but as king, I cannot accept a situation like that.
Gazel stated with a serious expression. It was the duty of a king to consider all possibilities and take responsibility for their people. Although it may seem trivial to worry about such matters, there was no guarantee that we would not declare war, and the same uncertainty applied to the Empire, even if we refrained from taking action. The question of which nation Tempest would side with in the event of an alliance between us and the Empire attacking Dwargon was indeed a challenging one. It was a dilemma that even I found difficult to answer.
Do you now understand, Rimuru? When you negotiated with the Empire to prevent war, you did so solely considering the needs of your own nation, which is perfectly acceptable. However, it completely disregarded the interests of Dwargon, our nation. I don't mean to criticize you, but I find it hard to accept.
King Gazel explained, expressing his perspective. His words made sense to me. While Tempest could potentially form alliances with both Dwargon and the Eastern Empire, there was no existing agreement between Dwargon and the Empire. If they were to go to war, our ability to maneuver diplomatically would be severely limited. However, there was something that crossed my mind.
True, we have an agreement that if either of us is in danger, the other will provide military support.
But there is no specific time limit associated with that agreement, is there?
Gazel countered.
Huh?
I was taken aback by his response.
There is no such thing as an agreement that remains effective indefinitely. All agreements must provide safety and assistance for a limited time. In fact, an agreement with a built-in time limit might even be considered more secure.
His point struck a chord with me. While our agreement offered mutual support, it did not outline the duration of that commitment. Perhaps establishing a time frame for the agreement could provide a clearer understanding of our obligations to each other. Seal helped me grasp the concept more clearly. She explained that if we wanted to terminate an agreement, it would be more challenging to cancel one with a time limit compared to one without. In the absence of a time limit, we could subtly explore the possibility of ending the deal at any time. However, with a time-limited agreement, both parties could consider the deal secure until its expiration. Breaking a deal and launching an attack would significantly damage our trustworthiness, especially in the eyes of other nations. This consideration was relevant to our reputation with other countries. On the other hand, the Empire, driven by its territorial ambitions, might not care about such concerns at all. Naturally, for us, breaking a time-limited agreement was not an option. Once we renewed the deal, we were duty-bound to honor it. If we attempted any deceitful actions, the Western nations would abandon us, which went against our strategic interests. Therefore, it was preferable to establish more formal and explicit rules.
Exactly. So you envision a scenario where we form an alliance with the Empire and break our agreement with you? And that concern is what brought you here?
I asked, seeking clarification from King Gazel.
I'm glad you understand our concerns.
Dolph responded with relief.
Yes, I can see why that would be a worry. In that case, if we do proceed with signing an alliance, I will make sure to thoroughly review all the terms related to such matters.
I assured them. Everyone seemed reassured by my statement.
See? I told you that you were worrying too much.
King Gazel exclaimed, seemingly triumphant. It appeared he was relishing the moment, not displaying the responsibility he had towards his own officials and people.
Sir Rimuru, our time is almost up.
Shion interjected, glancing at her wristwatch. It was another creation I had crafted with Kaijin and his team, a fun little invention that seemed to be appreciated by Shion when I gave it to her.
Very well. Are you ready to go?
I asked, preparing to depart from the cafe.
I will open a transport gate, then.
And so, our impromptu discussion came to an end. We left the cafe, and in an instant, we found ourselves back in the meeting hall. It was 10 in the morning, and all participants were gathered in the hall, seated around a circular table with a notch cut out of it, similar to the letter C in a vision test. Seal provided some additional information about the formal name of this shape, the Landolt C, which was invented by Swiss ophthalmologist Edmund Landolt in 1888. However, I decided to stick to the main facts and skip the trivia at that moment. The purpose of the notch was to allow people to walk through it and stand in the middle of the circular table if they chose to do so. A large screen was set up facing the notch, ensuring that nobody's view of it would be obstructed. Since 3 nations were participating in this summit, we determined that this arrangement would be more suitable than having each side directly face each other. Our group sat towards the north, with me occupying the true north seat. Benimaru was positioned at the north-northeast, while Rigard sat at the north-northwest. As always, Shion and Diablo stood behind me, offering their support. On the Imperial side, Masayuki sat at the true east position, with Velgrin positioned to his right on the east-northeast side. General Calgario occupied the east-southeast position, and Major General Minutes sat at the southeast side of the table. Jiwoo and Bernie were indeed standing behind Masayuki, fulfilling their roles as his guards. It was a positive sight to witness their ability to work out their differences and cooperate. On the west side of the table, King Gazel and his group of attendees were situated. Gazel occupied the true west seat, with Dolph, the captain of the Pegasus Knights, seated at the west-northwest position. Dwargan's arch-wizard, Jane, took the seat on the west-southwest side. Henrietta the Knight Assassin and Vaughn the Admiral Paladin were assigned as guards for their king, maintaining their watchful positions. As I surveyed the meeting hall, I noticed Masayuki appeared restless and fatigued. His facial expression conveyed a sense of weariness, as if silently questioning why he had been thrust into this situation. He need not worry, for I felt a strong connection with him, and I was prepared to step in and assist him should any complications arise. Testarossa, the chairperson of the summit, rose from her seat, capturing everyone's attention as she stood in the center. She delivered some opening remarks, signaling the commencement of the summit.
The appointed time has arrived. Since it seems that everyone is present, I would like to begin this summit.
Testarossa declared, bowing before returning to her seat on the south side of the table. A chair had been arranged for her, providing a designated place for her to sit when her services as chairperson were not required. I had previously requested her assistance in navigating any potential challenges during the summit, and I was confident that she would guide me through any difficulties that might arise.
I will begin by discussing the purpose of this summit. We find ourselves here with minimal prior preparation, which may lead to unintended statements. In the event that happens, I kindly request everyone to refrain from belligerent behavior, maintain composure, and attentively listen to the opinions of other speakers.
Testarossa stated, pausing momentarily to gauge the audience's reaction. As a representative in the Council of the West, she was accustomed to such proceedings. I fervently hoped that the smoothness of the summit would persist until its conclusion, focusing my attention on her.
Now, I would like to begin by confirming one matter with all the participants. The Empire expresses its intention to establish an end-of-war agreement in anticipation of the cessation of hostilities. Furthermore, considering our nation's relationship with the Empire, it also seeks to ratify a new pact that outlines our future direction. Have I accurately summarized the Empire's objectives?
I have no objections.
Masayuki seemed poised to speak, but Velgrin spoke up first.
I agree wholeheartedly and raise no objection.
Gazel nodded in agreement as well. They had both acted ahead of me, prompting me to swiftly voice my response.
Very well, if there are no objections, I would like to proceed by discussing the current situation among all of us. Does anyone mind?
I asked, aware that I might have sounded a bit awkward. Nevertheless, I waited for everyone's reaction, projecting an air of confidence as if I rightfully belonged in that position. Masayuki glanced towards me, his gaze filled with respect. I truly admired that man. Yes, I believed in my own capabilities and felt a sense of pride. After all, the meeting hall was filled with the most influential individuals from the most powerful nations in the world. In my previous life, I never had the opportunity to dine with the Prime Minister of Japan, nor did I ever come across a member of the National Diet in person. The closest I had come was when a director from MLIT, the Japanese Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism, visited our office as a client. Even then, it was a somewhat awkward and informal office tour, without any extravagant wining and dining. Initially, I would have been nervous just engaging in casual conversation on non-work topics with someone of that stature. Now, however, I found myself dealing with multiple kings. Kings, plural. It was a deeply moving experience, to say the least.
If there are no objections, I would like to invite Testarossa to begin, and we can engage in discussions once she's finished. I am open to receiving feedback, and I will ensure any mistakes are rectified. Please proceed.
I concluded, acknowledging my willingness to accept input and correct any errors that may arise. The conversation proceeded according to the plan that Testarossa and I had discussed beforehand. I instructed everyone to remain silent until we had the opportunity to present our views, as Testarossa had suggested that it would help maintain a smooth flow of discussion. Those of us on the same level, such as King Gazel, Emperor Masayuki, for now, and his representative Velgrand, were given the freedom to speak up whenever we desired. However, anyone else who dared to interrupt risked facing consequences for disrespecting their respective king's words. While I wasn't entirely comfortable with this arrangement, if it made things easier for me, I was willing to go along with it. Testarossa commenced her rundown, providing an overview of the events that had transpired aboard the airship, including details that Gazel and the other dwarves were not aware of. However, she did omit certain truths at a couple of crucial junctures. Then, it was my turn to explain that Rudra, the Imperial Emperor, was actually a sentient skill. However, as we began discussing how we emerged victorious in the battle against Velgrand,
Wait.
Gazel called for a time-out, interrupting the flow of the conversation.
Oh, you can speak up later.
I started to respond, but Gazel cut me off.
As if I could wait for that.
He exclaimed, raising his voice. Hey, why is he yelling at me? I thought to myself, caught off guard by his outburst.
King Gazel, is something wrong?
I inquired, attempting to address the situation with a touch of humility. Gazel simply stared at me, his head resting against his hand. Gazel remained silent, directing his gaze towards Velgrand. He began speaking in a grave tone, acknowledging that his question might be perceived as rude.
I know this might be impolite of me.
Gazel started.
But does Lady Velgrand agree with Sir Rimuru statement just now?
That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. A big thanks to the AnimeKouhai patrons who made this video possible. Jared Bressler, Chad Vota, Chris Guzman, Andre L. Hamilton, Adrian, Kumo, Sanketh Chelu, T. Bush, John L., JV, Thomas, J, Potate, Big Q. Thank you so much for helping out. I'll see you guys in the next video.